Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today's article is a systematic review with meta-analysis. It is titled The Impact of Sealer Extrusion on Endodontic Outcome. It was by aminoshariae and Coolid and published in Australian Endodontic Journal in 2019. Their aim was to qualify and quantify the evidence about whether sealer extrusion affects endodontic treatment outcomes, especially when healing versus non-healing. And the authors, they searched M-Base, Medline, Cochrane, MVAPMed, and bibliographies, gray literature, and textbooks. They included cohort studies published in English from 1960s to February 2019, and they required a control group without extrusion, documented follow-up, sample size information, and at least 12 months follow-up. The review used a PICO framework, patient receiving endodontic treatment, where the population sealer extrusion was the exposure, no extrusion was the comparison, and the healing assessed clinically and radiographically was the outcome. The study quality was assessed using the Newcastle Ottawa scale, and the evidence certainty was graded with a grade. In total, search found 111 records from database searching and 3 additional records from other sources. After removing duplicates and screening, 6 studies met the inclusion criteria and were included in the meta-analysis. And the total sample size across studies were 3,248 participants, with 1,024 in the extrusion group and 2,224 no extrusion group. So the detailed results showed that the sealer extrusion was associated with higher risk of non-healing outcomes, and for their pool risk ratio, it was 1.32 with a 95% confidence interval of 1.12 to 1.54, and the result was statistically significant. And this means that the sealer extrusion was linked to about 32% higher risk of non-healing compared with no extrusion. The forced plot also showed the low heterogeneity with L2 equals to 29 and P2 equals 0.21. So the results were relatively consistent across the studies. The certainty of evidence was rated moderate, and the overall risk of bias was also moderate. And they concluded at the end that while many teeth still heal successfully, even with sealer extrusion, treatment outcomes are generally better when obturating material is confined within the root canal system. They suggested that extrusion may contribute to non-healing because of the apical damage, cytotoxicity, or host response burden. And for the limitation of this review, they included studies, observational studies, and many covariants were present, and for the groups were not matched well enough to isolate the sealer extrusion as the only factor. And also some data from the primary and secondary treatments were combined, and the analysis relied on 2-dimensional radiographs, which may have underestimated actual extrusion. And thank you.